Good evening and welcome. This is a public hearing of the Zoning Board of Appeals of the City of Evanston. The zoning ordinance directs this body to hear applications for major variations, special uses, and appeals from decisions of the zoning administrator. Depending on the type of matter, this board will make either a final determination or send its recommendation to City Council. Melissa, will you call roll, please?
Scott Gingold,
Here.
Mary Beth Burns,
Here.
Mary McCauley, Violetta Cullen,
Here.
Lisa Deacon, Kirill Miranchev,
Here.
Mirna Aravala.
Here.
And with 5 members present, we do have quorum tonight. Also present tonight is zoning planner Melissa Klotz. This is a formal meeting, and there are rules that govern our proceedings. Most importantly, only one person speaks at a time so that all testimony may be accurately recorded. Anyone who wishes to address the board regarding any matter on the agenda will have the opportunity to do so at the appropriate time. Our procedure is to hear from staff on the documents on file and then receive testimony and other evidence from the applicant or appellant. Next, persons who wish to make a statement regarding the matter may do so at that time. Any person with a legal interest in property located within 500 feet of the subject property may present evidence, reasonably question witnesses, or seek a continuance of the hearing. When all supporting and opposing testimony and statements have been heard, the applicant or appellant will be given the opportunity for rebuttal or a closing statement. Then the board will close the record and begin deliberations. All testimony will be under oath. Although we do not apply the strict rules of evidence, please limit your testimony or statement to your personal knowledge. When you address the board, please state your name and address and sign in on the provided sheet. Our meetings are audio and video recorded. Please make sure that you are at a microphone when asking questions or making statements so that you can be properly recorded. All proceedings are subject to broadcast at a later date. Any matter not concluded at tonight's hearing will be continued to our next regularly scheduled meeting. There are 3 items on the agenda. Do we have to be official about the 4th? Yes. So there were 4 items on the agenda. The 2620 Central Street, if anybody is here for that, they have withdrawn their application. So there are only the three items on the agenda tonight. And the first item on the agenda is our meeting minutes. Has everybody had a chance to read those? Yes, no? Fantastic. Does anybody have any changes?
No.
Excellent. Can I have a motion, please? It's okay, you can make the motion even if you weren't here.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes of August 15, 2017.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
I will note that anybody not voting was not at that meeting. All right, next, we will go through anybody who is in the audience who is planning on testifying tonight. If I can have you raise your right hand. And do you swear or affirm, anybody who's going to talk? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth throughout the course of these proceedings? Fantastic, thank you. All right, first we will start with 633 Howard. I see Mr. Berthomieu, I'm going to go with that. And Melissa will read the case into the record.
Pascal Berthomieu, potential lessee, applies for a special use permit for a Type 2 restaurant, Cafe Coralie, in the B3 Business District, Zoning Code Section 6943. The Zoning Board of Appeals makes a recommendation to City Council, the determining body for this case. Documents included as part of the record include special use application submitted August 4th, 2017, standards form, plat of survey, business summary, sustainable practices worksheet, interior site plan, facade examples, image of property, aerial view of property, zoning map of property, and Dapper meeting minutes excerpt of August 23rd, 2017.
All right, Mr. Berthomieu, if you'd like to come up and tell us a little bit about your proposal, please.
Yes.
Thank you.
So good evening, members, and thank you for having me here.
Don't forget your name and address, please.
Yes, first name is Pascal, last name is Berthomieu, and my address is 3825 Golf Road in Evanston. The proposed project is very similar to the one existing on 600 Davis Street, which is it's a bakery and a coffee shop. It's really a mix of both. And, you know, in the country from where I'm from, it is a necessity for the neighborhood, but I see that just the same thing here, where I really want to contribute to the revival of Howard Street by offering a daytime destination where people can just come for a coffee, a baked goods or both, and also a place for people to just socialize. And it will be open from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. 7 days a week. And it's it's pretty straightforward as far as like the concept itself.
How many seats will there be in the restaurant?
I believe close to 50 seats. So considering the size of the space, it's not too many seats, and I think I purposely intended to not to cramp as many seats as possible. There will be a lot more lounge seating as opposed to like tables and chairs. Because I just want to make it comfortable, and again, a place for the neighborhood to come and sit and relax and converse, as opposed to a place where you would go and work with your computer, like you could see with with Starbucks and students and things like that. So I really want to put the emphasis on like a place for the neighborhood to come and and just enjoy one another and have conversation over coffee and pastries. There will be the kitchen will be located at a location, so we plan on doing wholesale business from that location. So the emphasis is not just on like getting as much revenue as possible with the cafe itself.
Can you describe what foods will be prepared on site?
Right. So obviously there will be all the what we call the viennoiserie product, which is like the croissant, the chocolate croissant, the rolls, all these breakfast items. But there will be also savory items like quiches, sandwiches, or more like a lunch fare, and also premium pastry, which is really what we do. Because if you ever go to the one that I have on Davis, there is no cookies, there is no cupcakes, brownies, and no large cake either. It's all like individual pastries that are a lot more composed. And then, so there's like, and macaron. So there's like, if I may say, there's four different things that we do. We do savory items, we do viennoiserie, the breakfast goods, we do the premium pastries, and we do those French macarons, which are those colorful gluten-free cookies per se.
Yeah.
So those are the things we will be offering.
And so how many, assuming you're operating at capacity, how many employees will you have on site?
Between 10 and 15 employees, and all that are local to the area.
And is any of that wait staff, or is that?
There is no wait staff. It's all corner help.
10 to 15 people operating at the counter?
Including the kitchen.
In the kitchen.
Right.
Okay. And
go ahead.
sorry, you said they'll all be local, but since this isn't operating yet, how do you know that?
Because based on the staff that we have currently at the one on Davis, like 90% of them are living in the area. And when I say this, it's only because I know they're either taking public transportation or like biking to the store. So it's safe to say that I don't think it will be challenging for us to find staff that will live locally. I mean, I don't discriminate based on where you live, but it is one like common sense question we ask: where do you live? Or we can see it on the application. We want people that live locally. It just makes more sense.
And you've been before us, obviously, a number of times for your other restaurants. I assume you'd be fine with a condition that your employees would not be allowed to utilize the street parking on Howard there?
Yes. Well, the street parking on Howard, I will just only mention the fact that if you ever drive there during the daytime, there is plenty of street parking. So that, in my mind, can possibly be an issue as far as parking goes. I know that this is something that is very important to neighbors when they see a new restaurant opening or other type of concept. But in our case, there's just so much street parking that I'm myself amazed to see like that there is hardly anyone during the daytime. So if I can just change that, I'll be happy to. But based on the staff that we have at the current bakery, I can't think of, my chef has a car, I can't think of anyone else that actually drives to work. So I'm hoping to duplicate that.
But it wouldn't be a problem for you to abide by that condition, correct?
I'm going to answer yes to that question, but quite honestly, who can tell you, sitting in my position today, that of course we will make sure no one drives.
Oh, it's not. It wouldn't be a condition that no one drives. It would be a condition that if people drive, they not utilize the parking that patrons otherwise might be using to park there on Howard Street.
Right. So
And this is sort of typical when we deal with a Type 2 restaurant permit.
I totally understand where you're coming from. I will think and I will hope that they will not.
Okay.
I have 3 parking spots in the back of the unit. I'll be happy to provide those parking spots to any of them that is driving.
That's good to know. With the lease has 3 parking spaces?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Okay, my question is, you said that you will be using this as your wholesale place where you make most of your baked goods?
Right.
Okay, so does it have a bigger kitchen than the other place?
It will be, not that much bigger, but big enough that we'll be able to do wholesale business, which is currently we simply can't.
More comprehensive. So what would the deliveries look like to this location?
That too. I wish I would answer the question by telling you that a fleet of trucks will be, taking off from the shop, but it's only going to be just one car. And again, going through the back of the unit, loading up every morning very early, like around 6 a.m., and going to the existing location that we will have on Davis, because that one won't produce anything anymore from there.
So you're going to open at 7, but you'll be baking much earlier?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
You will be, and then you'll just supply your other location,
Correct.
not just other restaurants, just your other location.
For now, yeah, we will only be providing to that one location. We have one big wholesale account that we've had for a while, which is the Peninsula Hotel. We provide all their macaron needs, but it's just one key account. So far, like I said, we were hoping to get more of those wholesale accounts, but so far we only have one.
And as far as supplies that come into your location, how often do you anticipate those deliveries?
That's about, like, I say 2 to 3 times a week.
What time?
In the morning, usually.
Early, before you open?
No, it's during business of operation, but some of them I know can come on the earlier side, but it's usually like between, let's say, 8 and 11 a.m. And that will go through the back of the building.
The reason why we ask all these questions is because we're anticipating Howard becoming a destination and no parking and a lot of traffic. So we're just trying to be proactive.
Right. I can assure you that as far as deliveries, it will have to be through the back. I could not see an operation where, someone will be rolling a cart down the dining room to deliver, dairy or whatever it is. Yeah, it will have to be through the back. There's no question about that.
Okay, thank you.
How many times a week are you expecting then the deliveries? Is this every day at a certain time?
No, it's less than a restaurant, just because we don't deal with a lot of produce so much. It's like right now, currently, it's about 2 to 3 times a week. So every other day, let's say.
Okay, and what times?
In the morning, between, let's say, 8 and 11 a.m.
Okay.
Do you intend to use anything outdoor on the sidewalk?
If there is room for an outdoor seating, it will have to be, directly in front of the facade of the bakery, and that will only hold maybe 3 tables of 2, something in the neighborhood. So at this point, if I can have one, I will, but it would be purely for aesthetics more than trying to generate any kind of revenue. I think the idea that I have for the facade is obviously very different than a police outpost, and it's mostly cosmetic, where we're going to apply wood paneling throughout the whole facade, and I think it would be very pretty. I think it would be a good thing for the neighborhood. It would be very light cream color, color tone. And so, like I said, if I can add a few bistro tables and chair, I will, but it would be small.
Do you intend to put some awnings?
No awnings, no.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So when we look at the pictures that you provided, I'm assuming are the inspiration for the exterior, which are the bright red and the
Right.
awnings.
Right.
You're not planning on painting it bright red? You're planning
No.
on painting it a cream color?
Very light, light color cream. Yeah.
Okay. And then the idea is the wood paneling
Right.
and the entablature across, but no awnings either.
No awnings. It will be like just so yeah. Think of that picture with like in white and that
Cream.
cream with moldings on it and just wood paneling throughout the whole facade.
Okay.
The sign itself will be painted on top
Okay.
where you have the currently those two lights on each
Right.
side. It will be like in the middle of it.
Okay. And you are familiar with the sustainability practices for Evanston, yes, which includes the litter collection plan and tap water and reusable flatware and dishes and
Right, which is-
delivery and hybrid vehicles.
Right, which I was made aware at the last meeting. So we do plan on buying a hybrid car and as well as recycling for the garbage.
Okay. I'm assuming that dumpsters are in the back. And do you
Correct.
know how often your garbage pickup is?
Well, that's something I need to talk to the garbage company, because if I'm going to have recycling, then at that point it would have to be 2 bins, and so therefore maybe less pickup than if I only had one. So I'm not quite sure of the answer to that question, but I'll look into it.
Okay. Any other questions from anybody on the board?
No.
All right. Thank you very much for your presentation.
No, thank you, and like I said, I look forward to contributing to to Howard Street, and I'm excited to join the neighborhood, and I hope that others will follow, and will one business at a time will change the street.
Great. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to comment? If we can have your name and address, sir, please.
My name is Matt Rogers. I live at 133 Clyde Avenue. I think most of you know me. I just came to speak tonight in favor of this project. I live about a half block off Howard and about a block down from this current location. And what we desperately need in this neighborhood is something to do during the day. We have kind of come in with our evening entertainment between Ward 8, Peckish Pig. Good to Go Jamaican is coming across the street fairly soon. But we lack something during the day, and we're hoping that something along the lines of Cafe Coralie will provide us that opportunity. And in regard to parking, Pascal was actually very accurate, because there is nothing to do during the day on Howard Street. Parking is very wide open, and we would prefer people to park on Howard Street as opposed to in our neighborhoods, as every resident of a neighborhood says. But that's all I had to say, was just speaking in favor of the project.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. All right. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to this project? No. All right. Mr. Bertomeu, would you like to say anything else, or are you good? All right. Fantastic. With that, we will close the record. And comments from the board, please.
I want to say that I have been to his other location, Patisserie Coralie, and I think that it's a jewel in downtown. It's very well run, and I'm anticipating something just like that on Howard Street would be a boon to the Howard Street development.
I fully support the project. It's a good project. It's a needed thing on our thing. So
I agree.
No further comment.
Excellent. I happen to agree that it's a great project too, and I think that we all know that we're trying to get more daytime traffic down to Howard, and so everything we can do to get that would be a great thing. And good food is one of those ways to do that. So I will go through the standards for special uses. There are 9 of them. And so the first is that it is one of the special uses specifically listed in the zoning ordinance, and it is, so that standard's met. Number 2, it's in keeping with the purposes and policies of the adopted comprehensive general plan and the zoning ordinance as amended from time to time. One of the purposes and policies, certainly among many of them, is to retain and enhance a diversity of business, commercial, and industrial areas, also to promote growth and redevelopment and adaptive reuse. And this certainly ticks a lot of the boxes for the things that are advocated for in the comprehensive general plan. So I do believe that that standard has been met. Number 3, it will not cause a negative cumulative effect when its effect is considered in conjunction with the cumulative effect of various special uses of all types on the immediate neighborhood and the effect of the proposed type of special use upon the city as a whole. This neighborhood is really just in its infancy, and so it is one of the few special uses on the street. And so I don't think that the addition of this as a special use will cause any undue hardship on the neighborhood. So I believe that that standard has been met. Number 4, it does not interfere with or diminish the value of the property in the neighborhood. In fact, redevelopment of this property can only enhance the neighborhood and bring more higher property values and bring more people to the street, particularly with sugar. So I think that that standard has been met. Number 5, it can be adequately served by public facilities and services. It's certainly being on Howard Street, it is on transportation routes, both Metra, CTA, and the bus lines. The minimal use of the dumpsters certainly will not cause a strain on city services from that perspective. In fact, no strain because it's all commercial. So I do believe that that standard has been met. Number 6, it does not cause undue traffic congestion. As some of the testimony we've heard is that during the daytime, traffic on Howard is indeed non-existent, and so any traffic will be good traffic. So I think that that standard has been met.
I would I'd
Yep.
add to that one that forward-looking with the hope that development continue, I think that we can ensure that traffic congestion is not overly burdened by imposing conditions, including with respect to parking and deliveries.
Thank you. Number 7, it preserves significant historical and architectural resources. The existing building that's replacing, which is the Evanston Outpost, is not particularly historical or architecturally significant, so I don't think that that standard applies. Number 8, it preserves significant natural and environmental features. I do not think that that standard applies either here. Number 9, it complies with all other applicable regulations of the district in which it is located and other applicable ordinances, except to the extent that such regulations have been modified through the plan development process or the grant of a variation. Nothing else is being asked for on this property with the, except for the special use, so I do believe that that standard has been met. So, with that, may I have a motion for a recommendation, please?
I'd like to make the motion in the case of ZBA 17ZMJV-0074 that we make a recommendation to the City Council to approve the special use if the project is developed in accordance with the testimony at this meeting.
Sorry, I'll add a couple
you.
conditions.
Okay, what are the conditions?
If you don't mind, I'd add a condition also that employees be prohibited from utilizing street parking, and that the hours of operation be limited to
7 to 7 is what he said.
7 to 7.
I want to make that longer, given that it's Howard Street. What else is, sorry for interrupting, but Melissa, what else is on the street? I mean, if we're talking about bakery, breakfast and bakery and people walking to trains, do we want to go like 6 to midnight since it's Howard and give him the opportunity to expand?
The gas.
You don't have to use all that time. We just want to give you room to grow.
The gas station and convenience store at 555 Howard is approved until 1 a.m.
Oh, good
I
Lord.
can't think of any others in the vicinity.
Okay. How does the board feel about 6 a.m. to midnight?
I'm fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so 6 a.m. to midnight. And that deliveries take place as planned in the rear rather than through the front.
Okay. Second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And with a vote of 5-0, you go to City Council with a vote for recommendation. Good luck with your project. Thank you very much. Thank you. Moving on to the next item on the agenda is 1224 Dumpster Street. Melissa, would you read that into the record, please?
Ann McGuire, architect, applies for major zoning relief to construct a one-story roofed entry at Beth Emmet, the Free Synagogue, in the R1 Single Family Residential District. The applicant requests 32.3% building lot coverage where a maximum 30% is permitted, zoning code section 6827. The Zoning Board of Appeals is the determining body for this case. Documents included as part of the record include variation application submitted August 3rd, 2017, standards form, zoning analysis, plat of survey, site plans, elevations and renderings, image of property, aerial view of property, zoning map of property, Preservation Commission meeting minutes excerpt of July 18th, 2017, and DAPR meeting minutes excerpt of August 23rd, 2017.
All right, who's going to present that case for us? If you give us your name and address, please, your work address is fine.
Sure. I'm David Whitehill with Clement Halsman Architects. We're at 322 8th Avenue in New York City. We're architects. We've worked with Beth Emmet since 2000 and.
Did you say you were from New York City?
Yes, that's
They
right.
fly you in for this? Good Lord.
It's been a long relationship. We've been working with them since 2012.
All
Ann
right.
McGuire has been working with us for about 2 years as well. We're in the process of swapping the names out for the applicant of record for this process. As I said, we've been working with Beth Emmet for about 5 years to enhance their facilities in a multitude of ways. One very important issue that they've been dealing with that building for a long time is that the main entrances to the building are a major entrance on the north side along Dempster to their sanctuary, and a secondary entrance also on the north side that enters sort of their office and school area. The parking is all on the west side of the building, so this creates a condition where for small children or handicapped people in wheelchairs to get into that entrance, you have to go around the corner of the building. There's no particularly direct access from the parking into the building itself. So there's always been a desire to increase the accessibility into the building, as well as increase their ability for security to monitor an entrance. So to have a office that can have visual access through glass to the exterior of the building, so they can see who's coming in the building and let them in. Right now they do that all through a system of video monitors, which is suboptimal. So as I said, the main impetus for this project was to increase accessibility. The synagogue did a addition renovation in 2001, which increased the built area of the lot basically to the maximum, to 30%. In this project, we're seeking to add, as you can see in the rendering, a stair and a ramp at the location of an existing kind of raised concrete platform. It looks kind of like a loading dock with no actual function as a loading dock. And to create a wide stair and it's actually not even a ramp, it's an inclined walkway, so it's not even high enough slope to be determined a ramp technically. To create a glass entrance that you can see in the far edge of that platform in the rendering, into a new vestibule and corridor to get people into the building in an accessible way. This project, as you mentioned, was reviewed at the DAPR meeting in August, and I'll just address some of the questions that came up. There were some questions about the materials. So we're looking at concrete sidewalk paving, which is consistent with elsewhere on the site, sandblasted concrete, planters and bollards, which is consistent with other materials that they have currently. A copper roof for this overhang, which is to match the copper roof that they have elsewhere in the building, and some water jet or plasma jet cover engraved railings along the ramp and at the areas of the raised platform that have drop-offs to the walkway or planters below. Another question that came up was whether this was the design that most made equivalent the sequence of entrance for someone walking on stairs or someone going on the ramp. There's a sort of it's not in the accessibility code, but it's a sort of guiding principle to make those approaches as equal as possible. And this was the design that made those processions to the front door or the new door as equal as we possibly could. With that, I'll take any questions that you might have, or not.
Are you planning on pre-patining the copper to match the green, or are you just going to let that age over time?
Yeah, it ages pretty quickly on its own, so within
Okay.
a year or so, it would match, yeah.
And you said the water jet handrails, are those, you said engraved, so do those have penetrations, or there's just a pattern on a solid?
They would be penetrations, yeah.
Okay.
So that way, we would make them solid enough, so using the sort of 4-inch
Sure.
sphere rule, but to make them sort of open and lacy as possible. The actual design for that has not been finalized yet, so.
I can't imagine that it would.
Mm-hmm.
Did you think of other options here? Were there other plans that you looked at that you didn't need the variance for?
So we could have done the whole thing without a variance if we just did this plan without a roof. The roof is really what creates the need for the variation. With that,
What creates the need for the roof?
well, I guess it's a desire to have an area that's not slippery in the rain or ice or snow when people come out of that space. It's not currently a covered area. So currently there's a raised platform, but it's open to the sky.
How do you drain this?
So there's a gutter along the front edge of the eave, which drains to a rain chain, which goes down into a rain garden.
Is it on the other side, on the
the
distant
far side
side?
in the rendering? Yes. Yeah. So that would drain into a rain garden there. There was another question, actually, I forgot to mention that from the DAPR meeting about parking. So currently there's 60 spaces today, 55 standard spaces and 5 wheelchair handicap spaces. We would be looking to restripe because the area of this plaza you can see on the left side of this image would be in the location of some of those spaces. But in the restriping plan, we end up with 60 spaces. 57 of which are standard and 3 of which are wheelchair spaces. 3 wheelchair spaces is what is required by the Evanston Code, or the ordinance, sorry.
So the main reason for this redesign is not only handicap accessibility, but to make it more safe? Is that what you were saying with the glass entrance and everything?
Yeah, there's safety in 2 ways. One is the security of being able to monitor who is coming to the building and,
Yes.
and seeing them as they come in, and having a lockable vestibule, so you can lock them in the vestibule or either way. There's also the question of safety of this wing of the building is mostly classrooms, so there's a lot of 2, 3, 4, or 5-year-old kids. So safety of drop off and pick up to get the kids and create a space for them to wait as cars inevitably do what cars do to pick up.
There must be reception right inside the glass?
That's correct, yes.
Something like that?
I believe there's a first floor plan included in the application.
So you increase the handicapped accessibility of the building with this redesign, but you reduce your amount of handicap spaces?
That's correct. There has been talk, which is not in this current plan, of doing a further renovation of the entire parking lot and going back to the numbers that we had previously, but without doing that further, much more expensive renovation. The best we could do was to match ordinance.
So you're saying the numbers you had previously, which is 5 handicap spaces again, is that what you said?
Yeah, it's 60 total, 55 plus 5.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Which I don't know the history of how that design came about, but a parking lot of this size requires 3 per ordinance.
Okay.
So what's the purpose then, just to understand in terms of the restriping, to eliminate 2 of the handicap accessible parking spaces and convert them into effectively non-handicap spaces?
Well, currently, the handicap spaces are primarily in the area where those sort of diagonal walkways and planters are. So we're actually taking area of parking and turning it into this paving area. Part of the safety issue is there's not enough space for people to walk in front of this building because currently cars drive or park basically directly up to the building. So we're removing, I believe, 7 spaces that are in that zone, and we're restriping the entire parking lot, so with paint, getting enough spots. So there's no goal of removing 2 handicap spaces. It's just that with restriping, 3 was the maximum that we could get out of the current paved area.
Because the 55 spots are required.
6, yeah, there was a.
55 regular spots are required.
That's correct, yes.
Right, so you can't change it to 50.
To
Regular, to get more handicapped. You can't make that trade-off because 55 is required by code.
I was going off of what the previous special permit, which I think is from the 1960s, and where I believe, which predates the requirement for handicap spots.
Okay.
So I'm not 100% clear on what that agreement was. We just wanted to match the number of spaces total that you currently have.
Okay.
In other words, the special permit did not identify how many wheelchair accessible spots are required.
Right. Gotcha. Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else here who would like to speak about this project? All right. Do you want to say anything else? Okay. And with that, we will close the record. Thank you. Thoughts?
I am very familiar with this site, having been there to attend services and to drop kids off and pick them up on bar and bat mitzvah mornings. It has always struck me that it's odd that you drop someone off and they have to walk around the building to go in, and so the need for a project like this is pretty evident. And I also understand the desire to have both more accessible space and a sort of a view to the entrance that this project creates. The property is existing non-conforming with respect to lot coverage, which is the only issue I think we're discussing. I think I read that it's 31 point something and it's going to 32 point something. So the change is fairly minimal in my view. And while I'm not really sure I agree that the roof is necessary to create a slip-free surface in that it doesn't extend out perpetually, I think that the design element in a space that's largely, very non-residential, even though it's in a residential zoning area, is a trade-off that makes sense. And so I'm in favor of the project as proposed.
I am in favor of the project completely. It needs that. What I would recommend, though, it is probably out of our scope of work tonight, but what I notice with this building is that sometimes there is a kind of a slowdown on Dempster because there is right turn and left turn. And I would recommend to the designers, if you can think of something like a in your yard drop-off, it will benefit the street. It's not very often, but over there are slowdowns because people are waiting to get into the parking, drop off their kids, and then go out, and this takes time. So while in favor of this project, think a little bit whether you could improve the drop-off in peak times. This is my only note. Otherwise, fully support, including the awning, because this is really important. This is really important. There is a tradition of people like staying there, exchanging some thoughts, talking to kids. They need this roof. So I am for it. Thank you.
I agree with that. I would just also add on the parking, part of the issue, I think, is that I'm blanking on what the other street is, but it's a one-way street, and so it's difficult to figure out where you're supposed to turn in and out, whether it's from Dempster or the next street up Thank you. That Asbury, on the next street west past Ridge. So I do think traffic flow is a problem in the parking lot, and I'm not sure what the right solution is, but I would definitely invest some planning in that.
I like the project because it does create sort of like a public plaza on the residential side of the building, and I think that that's good for an institution to kind of blend in with the community, and it looks like a great project because it is going to increase your accessibility for handicapped people, so I like the project.
I fully support it.
Excellent. The only things I'd like to add, because I'm generally in agreement with everyone else, is I really appreciate inclusive design. I think it makes a ton of sense to not have separate but not equal entrances. And I think getting everybody to enter the building in the same place is a key element to the equity conscious Evanstonian population. I also appreciate your ability to reduce the impervious surface, given flooding and all that sort of thing, and you've made a trade-off and increased building coverage, but you've reduced impervious surface, which we appreciate that effort on to make that reduction. So these are major variations, and we are the determining body for this case. So I will go through these 7 standards for major variations. The first is the requested variation will not have a substantial adverse impact on the use, enjoyment, or property values of adjoining properties. As we've heard, the application is to create a roof and to create a better entry sequence into the building that will theoretically move traffic off of and drop-offs off of the major streets surrounding it into the parking lot. So I think both from a functional standpoint and from a visual standpoint, this will certainly increase the appearance to the neighborhood. So I do believe that that standard has been met. Number 2, the requested variation is in keeping with the intent of the zoning ordinance. The intent is to provide for the ability to meet the changing needs of the community and to modernize buildings as they are necessary from time to time. So I do believe that that standard has been met. Number 3, the alleged hardship or practical difficulty is peculiar to the property. This is an existing building on an existing piece of property that has some quirks to it, not the least of which is that it's surrounded by 3 very busy roads. And so getting that entrance off of the main roads into the parking lot is certainly going to help. So I do believe that that standard has been met. Number 4, the property owner would suffer a particular hardship or practical difficulty as distinguished from a mere inconvenience if the strict letter of the regulations were to be carried out. If we didn't approve the variance, we would end up with an entry that would not have any cover, which I think is a hardship in an area where we have ice and rain and all the 4 seasons. And I think giving a place of shelter for people going into and coming out of services is a good idea. So I do believe that that standard has been met. Number 5, the purpose of the variation is not based exclusively upon a desire to extract additional income from the property. I don't believe that the owner is intending to sell anytime soon, so I don't think that any of the monetary value is the incentive here. I believe that the incentive is to provide for a safe and reasonable access to the building, so I believe that that standard has been met. Number 6, the alleged difficulty or hardship has not been created by any person having an interest in the property. Again, an existing building on an existing lot that has not had modifications for many years. So I do believe that that standard has been met. And number 7, the requested variation requires the least deviation from the applicable regulation among the feasible options identified before the Zoning Board of Appeals. This is the minimum change necessary because we are talking about just a roof and a shelter for people from inclement weather. And I believe that they have mitigated that by reducing the impervious surface on the lot as well. So I believe that standard has been met. Is there a motion?
I move in the matter ZBA 17 ZMJV-0070 with respect to the property at 1224 Dempster Street that we approve the major zoning relief requested, subject to the condition that the property be developed in accordance with the documents and testimony that have been submitted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? With a vote of 5-0, your variance has passed. So good luck with your project. All right, moving on to the next one. It is 1029 South Boulevard. Melissa, will you read that case into the record, please?
Dale and Candace Folks, property owners, apply for major zoning relief to split one zoning lot into two zoning lots in the R2 Single Family Residential District. The applicant requests a 3.1-foot west interior side yard setback where 5 feet is required for a principal structure, zoning code section 6837A3, and a 3.2-foot west interior side yard setback where 4.5 feet is required for a front porch yard obstruction, zoning code section 6419B for the east zoning lot. The applicant also requests an accessory structure, detached garage, on a property without a principal structure, zoning code section 6462A for the west zoning lot. The Zoning Board of Appeals is the determining body for this case. Documents included as part of the record include variation application submitted August 2nd, 2017, standards form, zoning analysis, plat of survey, proposed plats of survey, image of property, aerial view of property, zoning map of property, and Dapper meeting minutes excerpt of August 23rd, 2017.
All right, if you would like to give us your name and address, please.
I will. My name is Dale Foch. I reside and own 1029 South Boulevard.
Great. Tell us about your project, please.
Well, as I stated in the last meeting I had, I guess you call it the Dapper meeting, I would like to subdivide my property. Reasons for that, I was born and raised in Evanston, been here 64 years, and it's getting to the point where I'm going to have to retire sooner than later. And to do that, I need to pay off, and to stay in my house, I think I'll need to sell that property off so that I can pay all my debts, and my taxes are pretty high there as it is. And I'm hoping that that will help me get closer to retirement. I had asked them if I had, as far as splitting the property, I was more than willing to move the property line over to 5 feet to meet that, and then when I got past the house, I was going to jog in 2 feet and then go back out. They said there was no zoning regulations against that, but they asked me that I kept it at 50 feet each lot because it was more zoning friendly or whatever. So that's what caused that problem. As far as the garage goes, to tear it down or to move that garage would be a financial hardship of epic portions, I guess you'd say. And I certainly don't want to tear it down. It's a valuable building. Whoever buys it, that's one less thing they have to build. They'll be able to use that garage to put material in out of the weather, maybe out of the way where people wouldn't steal it, as sometimes happens. And I believe that by splitting a 24,000 plus square feet into two over 12,000 square feet would meet, as far as building codes go, I believe it's 6,000 is the minimum you could build on, and this is over 12,000 once you split it. And as far as the width goes, I believe it's 35 feet narrowest that you can build on without permission. And I think I meet that with the 50-foot. And I do believe that if we split it, it would be existing non-conforming. But again, it would be a financial burden to move that garage or tear it down. I do have a contractor coming by. Well, he came by tonight. He's going to give me a price on taking out the driveway like the zoning board had requested, or the Dapper meeting had suggested, along with the apron. That'll give 2 more parking spaces on South Boulevard. Not to mention, whoever builds a house there, that'll increase tax values, more money for schools and everything else that the taxes go to. and it'll help me too, so I can stay in my house in Evanston.
So, sorry, is the idea that you're going to sell the second lot to a developer, or you're going to develop it yourself?
I don't have the money for that or the physical ability to do that anymore, so I would sell it to whoever. It could be somebody that wants to have a house built and have somebody else build it for them.
Did you get an offer for that? Has someone said they wanted to buy it?
I haven't done anything yet because I don't know what I'm going to be allowed to do.
Okay.
So, I mean, I've spent a lot of money already on surveying costs and zoning board analysis and all that other stuff. So I really don't want to do any more than I have to until I get the permission to do it. If not, then I'll have to, I don't want to move, I don't want to move and sell a house. I want to keep my house. But by selling this empty lot, I might be able to make it easier for me to survive once I retire.
I have a question for staff. So is the need for the variation to have an accessory structure without a principal structure solely due to the fact that once subdivided, that garage will be sitting on a empty lot?
Yes.
And so at the point where a principal structure is built, that would no longer be a required deviation from the ordinance?
Correct.
What are the plans with respect to the driveway if the lot is subdivided?
Well, I already agreed that I would have it tore out and sodded or seeded. I had the guy come today. He's going to give me a price, what it'll cost to tear it out. I'll have another contractor do the same thing, and I'll pick one of them to do it.
So, sir,
Although I got to say that, I'm sorry, I got to say that I would like to wait until I sell a lot because it's very convenient for my wife and daughter to get in and out of the house with groceries and stuff like that. But if I have to do it before then, I will.
so that was my question. If you sell the lot with the garage and tear out the driveway, will you have parking on your property?
I have a $2,000 deposit on Chicago Garage Builders to put a structure, a 2.5-car structure in back of my house now. Again, I'm waiting until I get the okay so that I can tell them to start the process. I believe that Melissa said that they had started the permit process already. So it's just a matter of getting an okay, and then I'll call them up. If I get the okay today, I'll call them tomorrow.
And that'll replace your parking and no problem?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
And will you be able to build that new garage in a location that's compliant with the zoning ordinance, or are you going to need zoning relief for that as well?
No, it's a 50-foot lot. It's a 26-foot wide by 22-foot deep. It's quite a bit smaller than the structure that you're looking at now. And it's going to be 5 foot off the property line to the east, and I'll have probably a good 14 feet or more. I haven't done the math, excuse me, but there's a big space between the two garages.
Does the garage we're looking at now have living space in it?
It does not.
I have a question for staff. Melissa, is the garage he proposes compliant?
It is. It has undergone a full zoning review. It is zoning compliant. It is sitting on my desk right now.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any other questions? I have a couple, if you don't mind. When did you buy the property?
Bought it in 99,
Okay.
1999.
Versus 18?
Yeah,
Okay. And
I'm
when,
younger than I look.
Of course you are. Everybody is. I'm 29. So the garage that's there, when did you build that?
Do you remember? I'm going to guess 15 years ago.
Okay. And so 15 years ago, you were thinking, I'm going to hang on to this lot in
Well-
its entirety for perpetuity.
What I was thinking of was eventually, I have a daughter who's special needs, and I was going to build on the second floor a place for her to live. But I didn't know, or I didn't go farther into the code saying that it's got to be at least 5 feet off the property line, 30 feet from the back lot. And I was going to build a house in front of that and sell the other one, so I could still stay there and try to teach her how to live on her own. That's not feasible anymore, so I'm going to Plan B.
Okay, so that garage that's there right now, that has living space above it,
It
yes?
does not, no.
So what's up on that second story? That is a big garage.
It's just got a lot of storage.
It's just storage.
I built it, and everybody asked me why I made it so big. I said, well, because the city let me.
What's-
I followed all the codes. I didn't want to have to say one day that, why didn't I make it bigger?
Right.
And
What's
my
the-
answer would be, I couldn't.
What's the height of the garage?
Oh, I don't remember.
That's got to be 20 feet.
It's whatever the code says it's got to be
Is the
midpoint.
storage on a second floor?
Yeah.
Are there stairs up leading
There
up
are
to the
stairs up.
storage?
Mhm. There's no water, there's no gas, there is a 100 amp service, 200 amp service running to the garage on its own meter, off the pole, underground.
Heated?
It's not heated, no. No gas, and, no, it's not heated.
Okay, so one of the other questions I have is, you know that one of our standards is that the alleged difficulty or hardship can't be created by any person having an interest in the property. When you subdivide the lot, you're necessarily creating the hardship. Explain for me how to get beyond that.
Well, the only other thing is if I move the garage, and as I said, to move it over to the structure, it'd be financially hardship for me. Can it be done? Sure, they move houses. They moved
Right.
one up on Crawford and on the edge of town,
Right.
so it can be done. It just cost me a boatload of money I don't have.
Okay. So what I heard you say is that you were willing originally to put the lot line in a compliant location.
Correct.
Right? So in one of that is to jog, and I have asked staff a couple times about why they don't care for that jog to lot line, and I'm not satisfied with their answer that it's convenient. But one of the options, obviously, would be to tear down that garage.
Yeah.
And so so then you would have, your lot would be fully compliant. The adjacent lot would just be 48 feet, yours would be 52 feet. Everybody would be compliant, and everything would be grand. Tell me why that's not an option, aside from a financial hardship.
I don't know what else to tell you. But I won't tear it down. I built it by hand, you know. It's built very well. It's
Right.
built to code. I'll move it before that happens.
Before you tear it down? Okay. Have you investigated having the garage moved?
I have.
Do you have bids on that?
I have bids on moving the garage,
Yeah.
but then the foundation, I have not gotten bids back yet on it.
Okay. Do you mind sharing?
It's going to cost me $16,000 to move the garage over
Okay.
48 feet.
Okay. Do you have an estimate on how much you're going to get for selling the lot?
I do not.
Do you know what houses in your neighborhood sell for? Because it seems to me that lot is bigger than general houses other lots that are on the street, right? If you look on the south side
It
of the
is bigger,
street.
sure. And that's why I
Even
like.
at 50 feet, it's bigger, because I think the lots across the street are like 35-ish.
Well, I lived across the street, and I had a 33-foot lot.
Okay, so they're 33.
Yeah, my son, who lives across the street, I think his lot is 40 or 50 feet wide, but it's like 125 deep or
Right, much shallower.
149 deep. So it's not as deep as mine.
So, if I can interject sort of interactively while you still have the mic, what I'm hearing from the chair and what I sort of agree with is there's a feasible way to do this, that sometimes these things require a little give and take. and it seems like splitting your lot is a perhaps good idea and is ultimately your goal, right? So that you can sell the second lot.
Or I can sell altogether and move out of Evanston, which I don't want to do.
Right. Exactly.
I mean,
you have that
my
option.
great-grandparents moved into this town many years ago. I'd like to stay here.
Right.
It's that simple.
Understood.
And I want to help myself financially when I retire so that I can afford that $13,000 a year taxes that I pay.
Understood. So, in the interest of give and take, and sometimes that's the way these things go, I'm sensing there will be at least some resistance to the project you've proposed, but at $16,000 to move your existing garage, not lose it, make that second lot 48 feet, which is still very, very large, and be able to sell it and easily recoup the $16,000.
Well, the 16 is just to move the garage. It's not including the foundation that garage has to sit on.
Sure, but you're still going to come out way ahead selling the lot, regardless of what the project
I would hope
is.
that I can pay off all my debts.
Right.
There is no guarantee there.
So is that something you would consider if that's something the board would approve? As opposed to a project the board may not approve, is that something you would consider doing?
Well, the problem I have with making it smaller to 48 feet is, I mean, I walked around on Monroe, and they built a brand-new house, and they've got 3-foot clearance on both sides, and I thought, I'm just asking for 2 feet. It's a 50-foot lot. Anybody build a house, they don't have to build a 40-foot house, 40-foot wide. That's a pretty big house.
Right. Well, I think right, understood. But that's not the only variation you're asking for. So
Correct.
one of the factors we consider is what you're asking for the least deviation necessary for us to be able to give you relief from the ordinance. And we've identified something that, while a slightly greater financial hardship to you, is a less deviation for us to consider, and one that it feels like would probably get your project approved. So I guess what I'm asking you again, to put it bluntly, is that revision to your plan something you'd consider if the alternative is you may walk out of here with a denial of your request altogether?
If I have to move the garage, I'll move the garage, but making the other lot 48 feet, as I stated, I don't know why, just for 2 feet, that I couldn't get that approved, because I saw a brand-new house on Monroe still being worked on that has offset of 3 feet. And that means I'd have to get the surveyors back out again, which costs me more to subdivide the lot even more.
Well, once you subdivide the lot and once you sell the lot, it's the developer's issue to get whatever variations they need for that new lot, to build whatever it is they decide they want to build on it. The variation you're dealing with deals with the existing garage where it is
Offset.
and the existing house where it
Right.
is, right? So those are the things you're dealing with on your side of the lot, assuming you're willing to move the garage. So the developer deals with, whether it's 48 or 50 feet, it's the developer who deals with the new lot and what variations they decide they need depending on whatever they're going to build.
If you don't mind my asking, how much were you contracting with Chicago Land Garage Builders to build your new garage?
$22,000.
Okay. So I happen to be in the industry, so I feel pretty confident that if you pay 16 to move it, you can get that slab poured for about the all-in cost of the 22.
Well, it's a 2-story structure, so I'm not sure a slab would be sufficient for that. Although I'm not an architect or a designer.
Right.
But whatever that costs, I mean, maybe since you're in the industry, maybe you could tell me, what do you think a 44 by 48 foundation for that garage would cost me? Because I don't know.
It does depend on what the city will require you to do from a foundation perspective, and
Yeah,
that might be one of those trade-offs that gets made. It's hard to know, but I think for either similar or only slightly more, you can get that you can move that garage with the foundation, be completely compliant, and get a lot that's free and clear with no variances on it. That's going to be more attractive to a developer.
That also includes moving the lot line, correct?
I don't know.
I mean, the reason why I say
I don't know how much
that-
it costs to move the lot line, but
The reason
know
why I
those
say
are two
that is
meetings.
because the foundation of the
Right.
garage is
Yeah.
3 feet off the property line. So if I make the property line 48, now, if somebody wants to build a garage on top of that foundation, they're going to be on the lot line almost instead of having a 3-foot variance.
Right.
That's why I thought.
You're going to end
I
up
could-
taking the foundation out. So when the garage gets moved, the existing foundation ends up coming out. That's how that works.
Hmm.
So that your lot will be completely empty then.
And you wouldn't know how much that would cost to take out 6 foot of concrete wall and footing and.
It's usually part of the wrecking for a garage when they give you the garage quote. So it's usually not a tremendous amount when they're there digging the footings, right? It's all possible, but
Okay. Well, I'm asking you for what I asked for.
Yep.
It's up to you guys to tell me
No,
yea
I
or nay.
appreciate that.
And then I will go from there,
okay.
okay? And I'll
you.
get more contractors and stuff to give me prices and stuff like that.
Great. Thank you so much. Are there any other questions from any board members? Okay. I don't think, is there anybody who wants to speak to this? No.
Now, I got to say, everybody I've talked to in the neighborhood has no problem with it. I
Right.
even have a couple that wrote a letter. Again, I know that, I saw it means nothing how many people are against it and for it. So
You've done your homework. I
I'm going to ask you
appreciate that.
guys to,
I'd just add for you, I don't, it sounds from the questions like nobody on this board disagrees that it seems like on balance it would be great for you, it'd be great for Evanston, and it'd be great for the neighborhood. But in the spirit of sort of the give and take of it, there's a way to do it that's different from what you proposed that I think makes more sense, even though you may not see every last dollar of that way. And so, I think what I was suggesting, and I have not taken a straw poll of the rest of the board, is if you're willing to be a little bit flexible, it strikes me that you can leave here probably with a variation that gets you what you need. But if you're going to put your foot down and say, I've put the proposal before you that I've got, and I'm going to deal with whatever it is, I'm not sure you're going to leave happy.
well, if I have to tear that garage down, I won't be happy anyway. I'm willing to tear out the concrete drive, the apron, replace the curb, as I was asked in the zoning board. Like I said, I'm going to leave it up to you, and I'll have to determine after the vote what I'm going to do next.
I'd also point out to you there are 2 zoning board members that are not here tonight, and if we don't have a majority vote from the people that are here, or four votes from the people that are here, it would get voted on at the next meeting.
Again, I'm going to throw my body at the mercy of the court, and you guys do whatever you're going to do. You know? 'Cause I'm not
So,
going to fight City
Melissa,
Hall.
I have a question to the staff. What is the problem with the jagged line?
Jog.
Right. I can't understand it either.
Staff is not supportive of jogging the property line. Whenever possible, we want straight property lines. It stops issues from happening in the future where people don't know where their property lines are. Things can get built in the wrong place. Neighbors end up in arguments over it, and that usually ends up in the zoning office. So staff
so it's
recommended to
self-preservation.
the applicant to proceed with variations rather than jogging the property line.
Did I
How
have,
about, I'm sorry,
go ahead, sorry.
how about a property line that is not parallel to the other property lines?
We foresee the same issues.
Mr. Foch, can I ask you a question? Did I read correctly you want to put a fence up or no?
I have to put a fence up, yes.
Okay. So this sort of gets to that idea of the whole jogged property line, right? Is if he's going to put up a fence now, he's essentially demarcating and puts that fence on the property line. He's demarcating that property line to future owners, which alleviates your concern with the jog. Not necessarily your concern. I mean, you as in, the royal you.
It's still not staff's preference. It's not good planning practices to have property lines do things that are unexpected.
So in the balance, right, you would rather have variances than a jogged property line?
We would.
Wow. Okay. It's crazy.
I think that makes sense to me.
Really?
I mean, I'm not really, if I might say, I'm not really sure why a structure that's there would be a problem anyway, because if somebody bought the property, they would put a structure on there. Yes, the garage was there first. But again, they can utilize that garage to build a house. They can keep everything in the garage, windows, flooring, drywall, things that could be ruined out in the weather.
The garage is really less of a concern. It's really more the house. The 3 feet between the house and the lot line is incredibly tight. And from a maintenance perspective and from a fire safety perspective, right, we like to see that 5 feet between lot lines and houses.
And I understand, but because of the 50-foot lot, that's why I didn't want to reduce that. I thought 50 foot was plenty big to put a house on. And as I said, on Monroe.
No, it's your existing house. So that's why.
I understand.
So it's moving that lot line 2
Yeah.
feet to the west. So you'd be 52 and they'd be 48. That's where. It's that 3 feet becomes a problem for myriad reasons, aside from variances.
But the only variation you're asking for would be for your existing house to be too close to the new property line you're asking be drawn.
Right.
So whatever happens on the other side of that, you're not getting any variation for that tonight.
I understand. But the reason why I did that is because they didn't want me to jag the property. And they said there's no code against it, but they don't want me to do it. They said, so keep it 50 feet. So that's kind of where I left it.
What if we said jog it? Oh, God, I saw that face. All right.
Ultimately, if the property line is jogged and that is establishing a new line, then a plat of subdivision is
Yeah.
required, which requires city council approval.
Right, but, I mean, that doesn't seem complicated. I mean,
What if we said draw it at 55 and 48? 48-foot wide lot is huge.
yeah, 52 and 48,
Yeah, and that totally alleviates the problem.
except for the garage.
Except for the garage.
And move
Yeah.
the garage,
Yeah.
or the developer will knock it down anyway.
I mean, and I'm trying not to be that person, but I'm saying they built a house brand new on Monroe with 3-foot offsets. It was good there, but it's not good.
Right, well,
2 blocks
every
away.
project and need and
I understand.
consideration is unique.
I
And there's a
understand.
solution here that is a win-win from a zoning perspective and from your perspective.
It's also likely that that wasn't actually new, it just looks new, right? It was probably an existing house that they put a second floor on and has new siding on it, so it looks brand new, but it's not, because
Okay,
I don't think we'd,
all right.
that said,
If I didn't
I still want
offset,
the
if I didn't offset the property, again, I can sell a property as a buildable lot to somebody, and they can put a garage. If I have to move the garage, I don't have a problem moving the garage, but then, now you're talking about pulling out a perfectly good foundation that would make a nice garage for that person that buys a lot, which would improve the property. I mean, again, I'm not trying to argue with you.
no, I understand, I
I'm
appreciate
just
that.
trying, it's easy to say, hey, tear down the garage, take out the foundation, move it over, put a new foundation in. It's easy to say all that, but it's a lot more involved than, you're in the industry,
But
you said?
You're going to build a new garage, so anyway, okay. Anybody else have any other questions, comments?
I
For
just
the
have a question. Do you use the garage right now for parking, or do you just use the driveway?
No, I use it.
You do?
Well, I use it for I park my motorcycle in it, I park my trailer in it.
So storage is what you're using it for?
Right now, yeah.
And you do realize
But it
that
can be-
whoever gets the lot may just tear it down because that's not their design? Okay.
I don't
Okay,
know
I
what
just
to
wanted
tell
to
you.
say that.
If they want to tear it down,
They will probably want to.
if they want to tear it down, they're more than, they can do that.
Okay, all right.
If they have the finances to
Paid for
do
the
that.
right to.
But the other thing,
Oh.
yeah,
Once they own it, they can do whatever they want with it.
you may get less for the property because they have now a cost of tearing down your garage that they don't want.
Or they may like the garage. I mean.
They may.
I don't know. Everybody else seems to like it.
It
In a
is a
neighborhood?
nice-looking garage.
Well, generally,
I will give you that.
his appraisal will be higher with the garage. So,
Who's going to appraise?
yes.
Who's going to appraise a empty lot? All right, anyway, all right,
I'm going to let you guys vote, do
Thank
whatever you're going to do. And
thank you.
And again, thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your application. All right, with that, we will close the record, since there's no one else who wants to speak to this. All right. Ready? Go.
Well, I will start. For me, the best solution is jog the line. But if this is, the staff does not accept this, my second will be to approve as they requested it, because any other solution for me is a kind of a worse than what they are suggesting. 50-50 with the garage and with the variances is a much better solution than moving the garage or demo the garage or with all other things. Think about the future of these lots. They're beautiful 2 lots, and yes, somebody may decide to tear down the garage, then all our concerns go away. Somebody may continue to use the garage. There will be variance to the lot line. Yeah, I understand that it is a little bit tight for the existing building on a 50 feet front, but I still prefer this rather all other solutions that, in my opinion, make the things worse. So once again, if we can jog the line, I would say yes. If we prefer not to do that, I would go for approving the request. Thank you.
I agree with Carol. Jogging a line would be the easiest solution. The second choice would be to give him the 2 feet variance that he is requesting. Once the property is bought by somebody else, it's somebody else's problem. And they will have to do their homework in order to get their variances, that garage. You know, obviously you have sentimental value to that garage, but somebody else will not. So you have to take that into account. And if it gets torn down, you know, after it's somebody else's property, then it's not your problem.
With respect to a jog line, my personal feeling is I'm not a zoning planner, but I trust the people that are, that it's not good zoning planning practices to jog
And
a property line.
that's what I just said. So if that is not, you know.
I agree with that. And so all I'm envisioning in my head is a jigsaw-shaped property where the next owner has to come in because there's a jut into their line that requires a variation, that they do something because they want to build too close to their property line. Having long rectangular lots is the standard. And these are extra wide lots, no matter whether we request that the line be drawn at 48 feet, 50 feet, or some other jogged arrangement. The only issue, in my view, that we're facing here is that this is entirely, by the applicant's own testimony, it's entirely driven by desire to recognize income from a 100-foot wide lot, right? And that's fine. It's fine to have that as their motivation. But then I don't have a problem saying, you know what, you should bear the expense of moving that garage. You are looking to make a windfall from the extra large property that you bought in 1999. And for zoning sense, it makes sense that you should move the garage and remove that pad or not, but then deal with a developer that's going to have to deal with that if you don't remove it. But either way, why not just divide the line at 48 feet without requiring the jog, without requiring the variation for his house to be 3 feet instead of 5 feet, And then we're just looking at a new subdivided lot that gets the owner the ability to make the income off that wide property he wants and to make a decision about how much of a profit he's willing to protect by moving that garage.
But even if he jogs the line 2 feet and he gets 52 and the adjacent lot is now 48, that garage is still going to be too close to the lot line regardless. So that new, the
What
new
I'm saying is
developer,
move it.
the new develop, no, but why would he have to? It would still be non-conforming whether it's
Just need to
50.
make it a 1 foot side yard setback rather than compliant as it is now.
For the accessory garage?
For the accessory garage.
Right, and what I'm saying is condition the approval on moving that garage altogether and putting it in a compliant location on his own property or getting rid of it.
Right.
The reality is a developer is going to knock that down. That's the reality.
Right.
It's
that's
a
what I-
nice
that's what I-
garage, but
that's
it's
what I
going to get
said.
knocked down.
That's what I said, and it's not his problem once it's subdivided.
Right, it's ours.
No, it's not. Because whoever comes in would still have to come in for a variance, or they would tear it down, period. And it's gone. So it's gone off of our table.
No, they don't have to apply for a variance if they leave it the way it is. If we approve a side yard,
It's not conforming, but as soon as they start to build something else on it, that garage is not conforming.
right, but only on the garage. They wouldn't touch the garage then, right? That's the whole point. You keep things grandfathered. Anyway. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I apologize.
No, that's fine.
No, Violetta, it's your turn. Go.
Well, what I was going to say was that it is our job here to take these non-compliant lots and make them into rectangular lots so that from now on, we can have compliant zoning. I mean, I would like to see a situation where both sides made a little compromise so that this could happen, this man can get what he wants. But if not, if it's like, the proposal stands it is, go or, vote this in or just turn me down, then I'm going to have to say no.
Okay, so I have to, Scott has elucidated most of my arguments for this case, so I will keep them to that. I do honestly believe that the cost of either moving the garage, if that's what the owner wants to do, or tearing it down is only marginally more than building the new garage he's already going to build. So I don't think that is quite the financial hardship that is that the perception is that there is. So with that, we're going to go through standards for a
Sorry,
major.
let me
Whoa.
ask a procedural question of Melissa first. So the proposal is what it is, and it seems from comment like the writing's on the wall, it's not going to get approved as is. And so my question is, do we have the authority to approve something he hasn't asked for with whatever conditions we've had, or what happens next if we just turn the proposal down?
If you turn the proposal down, the applicant has the option of proceeding with a jogged property line that would require approval by city council and may or may not be supported by staff. Or
Or may not?
we would have to reassess. Or demolishing the garage and creating a new property line that is not jogged, which would require city council approval as well. On the other hand, if you find a middle ground that either reduces the variances as noticed or requires a new variance, but is done so by the board, then that is fine to proceed.
So if I understand correctly, with respect to the variations that are being requested, we decide that, but with respect to the property line subdivision issue, city council decides it either way?
Correct. Well, let me
Yeah,
back up.
we were never talking
With-
about that.
With the current proposal, because there already is a lot line there, it is not recognized as a property line at this time, but since there is a line there, then if the variations are approved tonight, then a subdivision is not needed. The applicant is fully approved.
in other words, the subdivision has been pre-approved, assuming the variations are given?
There's no
No,
subdivision.
Yeah, in that case, a subdivision isn't necessary because right now there are 2 lots.
Oh, I see.
So it is 1 zoning lot, so approving the variations tonight
See.
would then validate 2 zoning lots instead.
Got it.
Okay, so I'm going to go through some standards for major variation. If you
Sorry,
go
one more
ahead.
question.
Yep.
What are the dimensions of the existing 2 lots in terms of the width that we've been discussing?
50 feet. It's where, on the plat of survey, it shows it as a dashed line.
Okay, so the 50 feet is not just an issue of convenience, it actually matches the current lot, and that would need to be redrawn.
Correct.
So as we go through the standards for variations, those of you who disagree with my assessment will need to say what your reasoning is for disagreeing. All right, so the 7 standards for variation. The first, the requested variation will not have a substantial adverse impact on the use, enjoyment, or property values of adjoining properties. I think this standard has been met because this is a particularly wide lot, particularly deep as well. And I don't think that these variations would have any impact on any of the adjacent properties. So I believe that that standard has been met. Number 2, the requested variation is in keeping with the intent of the zoning ordinance. What's the intent here? How does that apply? Sorry.
Increase the tax base.
Oh, all right. So one of the intents of the zoning ordinance is to increase the tax base in the city and to allow people to make modifications to their property as they need from time to time. So I believe that that standard has been met. Number 3, the alleged hardship or practical difficulty is peculiar to the property. I don't find this to be peculiar to this particular property. There are many properties in Evanston. Oh, what am I saying? Let me back up and think about that one for a minute. Unless somebody else wants to jump in on that one for me.
The reason I don't think this standard is met is because I think this is an unusually large property that effectively acts as a unusually broad set of possibilities for an owner or developer, and therefore I don't think there's any hardship that runs to this property.
I agree with that statement.
Yeah, but we have here existing structure. I somehow, and once again, I'm putting my arguments. I don't find the arguments about moving the garage or demolishing the garage kind of valuable in this case, just because it is a solid structure. It is a waste of resources to do something while it could be resolved in a very, very proper way. So I think that this standard could be really concluded as met, because you have this structure at the back, this garage that is a massive structure. And is it a kind of a not waste of resources to deal with this, to demolish or to move it just because we have a property line? And we can apply a variance because we are here for this, for the life of the zoning ordinance. That's my thinking.
I understand that. My thought about that is, to the extent the location or size of the garage is a hardship, it's entirely been created by this owner who built it himself 6 years after he bought the property. So to not have the foresight that you may one day want to try to subdivide these 2 lots is on the owner, in my view. And frankly, to Mary Beth's point earlier, if there is a cost associated with moving the garage in order to keep it, it's effectively a wash in terms of the cost of building a new garage, which he's going to do anyway. So yes, it's a hardship, perhaps, but it's going to cost him the same amount of money one way or another, whether he wants to keep the garage or build a new one. So I don't, and frankly, I don't think that hardship runs to the property.
Thank you. Moving on to number 4, the property owner would suffer a particular hardship or practical difficulty as distinguished from a mere inconvenience if the strict letter of the regulations were to be carried out. I do think that it is unfortunately reduced to a mere inconvenience to have to be able to relocate the garage or demolish the garage when that is taken as compared to the value of that vacant property. So I believe that standard has not been met.
Well, I will apply the same thinking. I think that it is a really hardship.
Number 5, the purpose of the variation is not based exclusively upon a desire to extract additional income from the property, or there is a public benefit. I do believe that in this case that the purpose of the variation is specifically based upon exclusively a desire to extract income. The public benefit standards don't necessarily apply here because the owner's house is a very nice house in nice condition, and it's not a blight on the neighborhood. We're not getting rid of a property that is in disrepair, and I think the property is very nice in a very nice location. So I do not believe that standard has been met. Number 6, the alleged hardship or the alleged difficulty or hardship has not been created by any person having an interest in the property. Given that the owner is the one creating the property line, which is causing the need for variances both on the east property, on the proposed east property lot and on the proposed west lot, I believe that standard has not been met because it's very clear for me that that's being created by the owner. And number 7, the requested variation requires the least deviation from the applicable regulation among the feasible options identified before the Zoning Board of Appeals. We've identified several options, and the options are not, as we've talked about, are not consistent with staff's recommendations for solid planning principles. But one of the options is certainly to move the garage, and given that the cost of moving the garage with the foundation is similar to building a new garage, I don't believe that standard has been met. I would like to remind everyone that if you don't think that any of those standards were met, any one of them, your vote should theoretically be no. Not theoretically, should be no. So with that, can I have a motion? Yes.
One more thing, since,
Unfortunately, we can't.
because you offered those other guys a chance to say one last rebuttal.
We do that before we close the record, and unfortunately, once we've closed the record, oh, good Lord, you're going to let me open it, aren't you? All right, hang on just a second. If we want to reopen the record for the owner's question, I need a motion to reopen record.
Motion to reopen the record.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those who want to reopen the record? Aye.
Aye.
All right. We have reopened the record. Tell us what you'd like to say.
Thank you. I mean,
Sure.
again, you guys are going to do what you're going to do, and I understand that. And you seem to think that I'm going to get a lot of money for the lot. I don't know how much I'm going to get for the lot, but I was talking to Melissa, and she said that I'd have to build a garage behind my house. I agreed to that. She said you'd have to tear out the driveway and fix the curb line and the apron. I agreed to that. I agreed not to jog the line so that the house would be 5 feet away from the property line until I got past the house, and then jogged it back so that the garage would fit in the 3-foot thing. You say that the one that caused the hardship. Well, I'm going to say this. The reason why I'm selling a property isn't to become a millionaire or make a lot of money. I've got bills to pay. I want to pay them before I retire. I'm trying to make it so that I can stay in Evanston and pay these high taxes. I don't mind paying for the taxes for schools. I sent mine to private school, and I paid for the taxes for the public schools as well. My family's been in this town for a long time. Again, that probably means nothing to anybody, but I want to stay in town. If that's not feasible, then I'll sell the whole property as it is and move out of Evanston, but I don't want to do that. That would be another hardship. You say it'd be easy to move the garage over and tear out the foundation. Well, all those things you're asking me to do cost money. Cost a lot of money to have some guy come in with a bulldozer or whatever they use to take that out. Sure, I can move the garage over and put on a new foundation, but then you're telling me I have to move the foundation for that garage when it could be used by somebody else to build what other garage they want. You stated a good fact. If I sell it, I'm not going to get as much money if I tear out the garage and the foundation and stuff. Again, I don't know what to say. I mean, you say that I caused the hardships. Well, maybe it's the taxes I pay in this town that cause the hardships. I'm just saying. I'm not trying to be mean or nothing, but I've paid a lot of taxes over the years, and I paid what I had. And they said, well, you got a nice house. Well, yeah, I made it nice. Nobody else from the city council or anybody was hammering the nails and doing things for me. And I get that, All I'm asking for is a 2-foot variance and let me keep the garage. That's all I'm asking for. I was asked to build a garage behind the house to take care of the 2-car rule that you've got. No problem. I said I'd do that. So I did give a lot.
But so let me ask you, as long as the record's back open, if you're going to pay $22,000 to build a new garage and it's going to cost you $22,000 to move or save your existing garage instead, what's the difference to you?
I guarantee you that it's going to cost more than that. It's
It
going
may,
to
but
cost
if it's essentially the
$14,000.
same.
It's going to cost $14,000 to move the garage, or $15,000, they said. Then I'm going to have to put a foundation in there. Then I'm going to have to have somebody come out and dig up the foundation just so that you can make it a 48-foot lot instead of a 50-foot lot. When there's no rules against jogging a 2-foot jog. And it's not going to be a jigsaw puzzle. It'll basically be I can move the line 2 feet from the house. When I get past the house, bring it in 2 feet, and then the garage will meet the offset that it needs.
Well, it sounds like that's a decision city council will make either way. So,
And that's fine. And like I said, I just have to say, the way you're talking, like I'm going to make $1 million on this deal. I'm not going to.
I'm not talking that way. I don't know what you'll make on it, but I know that
I don't either.
I know that you'll make more than it'll cost you to move the garage.
And the foundation and repair the curb and get rid of all the concrete? I would hope so I can pay off my bills so I can retire. I mean, is it selfish of me to try to live
No,
in
it's
Evanston?
not. But there are just rules that go around it, and we're all just trying.
I
Our
understand.
job is to try to apply them as we think the city ordinance should apply them.
And
That's all.
I understand.
Nobody wants you to have to move, and everybody here would like you to be able to move forward with a plan.
I'm a code guy myself, so I know.
Okay.
I worked for Evanston for 25 years. I went to Skokie. I'm a code guy out there. I understand what the codes are for and why they apply. What I'm just saying is, you're saying this hardship was caused by me. Well, it may have or may not have. I mean, I'm making this move not to make money. I'm making this move so I can stay in Evanston.
Let me clarify for you, just because I'm not sure you're appreciating that. When we say hardship, we're talking about as a term of art as it's used in the zoning ordinance. What we're talking about as a hardship is not the financial hardship to you. What we're talking about as the hardship is, what is it that's causing you to seek zoning relief for that garage? And to the extent the garage is located where it is, and that's the hardship, that's why you need zoning relief, that is something you caused because you decided where to put that garage when you built it. You decided that it was going to straddle or approach what's effectively the middle of your 2 lots, right? That's the hardship we're talking about.
Well, you're giving me too
not
much credit.
Well,
okay, so
not a financial
it wasn't I
hardship.
planned that way, like I said. But all I'm saying is that the hardship I have now is the taxes I pay, and I won't be able to stay in a house. If I can't do this, then I sell a lot and move out of Evanston. I don't want to do that. So.
I totally understand.
Again, you kept on bringing up how much money I'm going to make. I don't know how much money I'm going to make. I'd like to pay off my mortgages. I'd like to be able to pay the taxes once I do retire. If that's a hardship,
Yeah, I hope you didn't misinterpret what I said. I have no idea how much money
then
you
maybe
make.
I did. But, it just seemed like you were saying that I'm going to make all this money. And again, if I had to take out the foundation to the garage, moving the garage is one thing onto another foundation. But then tearing out that foundation from that garage, tearing out the driveway, tearing out the apron, fixing the curb on the street side, it's all financial burden on my part. And I guess I did, if you put it in those terms, I caused it myself, But
Thank you for your comments. I appreciate
All
it.
right,
Do you have
thank you.
Do you have anything new to add?
I don't.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. We appreciate your time. Yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to close the record again. We're going to go back to where we were, which are the standards. I've gone through the standards. Okay, so a couple of things. The first is, right, the motion should be in the affirmative, because that's how we do things, right? Motion in the affirmative. If you're against it, you just vote nay. Secondly, because we've had problems in the past with other projects where the front curb cut does not get removed, we need to make that a condition that that curb cut is removed prior to the spot survey. Number 3 is I would like to add that if this variance gets approved, that the east lot is no longer eligible for side yard variances, because again, this is a self-created issue, and any future owner, not this owner, but any future owner who wants to build an addition should be required to maintain the zoning side yard setbacks. So, anybody else have a condition on a positive motion? Nope. Nope. All right. Who's going to be brave?
I'm not sure what the motion needs to be.
It needs in the affirmative, so it's a motion recommending approval of a side yard setback for the east lot. For the principal structure and the front yard and the front porch, and a approval for an accessory structure without a principal structure.
Okay, so let me complicate it a little bit further.
Okay. Excellent.
Assuming a 50-foot non-jogged subdivision is approved by council, and that council agrees with staff as to that's what should happen, I have no problem with the variation.
We're the determining body.
For what? For the
This
variations?
case. Yes.
Not for where the lot line is drawn?
Not if it's based on the 50-foot. If it's a 50-foot lot line, it doesn't go to city council. It only goes to city council and to plan commission if we move it from 50 to anything else. If it's jogged or if it's 48
So,
or
okay,
if it's
so assuming it's
36.
50 feet,
Yeah.
I'm okay with the variation with respect to where that house sits, the 3.5 feet variation, because that, in my view, is not a hardship created by this owner. That house was built where it was when he bought it. However, I'm completely against the variation with respect to the garage, and I'm completely against approving a blanket accessory structure on a lot that this owner is going to sell. So I would vote in favor of a variation at a 50-foot lot line for the variation on the east lot with respect to where the house sits, but I would not vote in favor of any variation with respect to the accessory use or where the garage sits. In other words, I would require a condition that the garage be taken down and either moved or just taken down altogether, and that west lot be quote unquote clean.
Right.
Can it be two separate motions?
It seems like it wants to be.
Is that,
I have one
think it wants to
question.
be.
So if the actual garage structure is demolished, what about the
Foundation?
foundation?
Does that have to be demolished? Is that your
Correct.
question? Okay. I have a question like that, too.
Well, I want to put something, and Melissa, correct me if I'm wrong. The zoning ordinance says that an accessory structure cannot be built on a lot before the main structure is built. Is that correct?
Yes.
But the zoning ordinance does not say anything if an accessory structure exists on a lot before the main structure is built, which we have to decide today.
Staff's interpretation is that because you are creating a new lot, you are therefore building an accessory structure on that lot, even though the structure technically already exists.
Say it again, please. I need an interpretation on this.
Staff interprets that regulation as the garage is now being built because it is on a newly established lot.
Yes, but we are not building it now before the main structure.
By our interpretation, it is being built now.
So we are thinking now that there is no garage and he wants to build one.
Essentially, because it would be establishing a new property.
So we're creating a lot, and as creating a lot, we're creating this lot with a accessory structure and no main structure.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's understandable, but once again, I believe the letter and the spirit of the ordinance is you cannot build
The
a new
garage,
accessory structure before you have the main structure. It is not. If we have a case like this, and that's why we're here to decide what
I,
is right.
I
and
think
what
you're
is wrong.
probably right in terms of the letter of the ordinance, but in terms of the spirit of what we're doing, the owner is looking to split his lot and sell half of it. And regardless of the accessory structure issue, there's still the variation issue for how close that garage sits to the property line. And in my view, this is an owner-created problem.
Yeah, no, I understand the setback. I'm not talking about the setback. I'm talking about the main issue, which is the existence of accessory structure before the main structure.
But so
I would certainly agree about your concern to the new lot line. I'm concerned too, but once again, in my view, it is a acceptable variance.
can you address Myrna's question about does the foundation have to be removed if the garage is moved? In other words, can a foundation exist too close to a property line and leave it to the developer to remove?
You could consider it a sidewalk.
Oh, you mean just pour over it? Mm-hmm. Yeah, they could build a new wall in a conforming location and then just put concrete over it. But how do we make that a non-variance by, oh, look, it's an existing foundation, we just want to build on top of it?
Condition the
Property line.
These are getting
Setback.
hairy.
Yeah.
These are getting hairy, and Melissa's face does not like hairy.
So if the property line goes through the current foundation,
It would never go through it, though, because we're
Never.
talking about moving it over 2 feet.
2 feet, okay.
Yeah, but in this case, we would say you wouldn't even move it. You'd give on the house to get the garage down so that the new lot is clean and pristine, and you exchange a pristine lot, a pristine zoning lot for a side yard variance on the house.
With a concrete patio.
You can't have a patio without a principal structure.
And particularly not in a side yard. Don't even think about that.
I would advise against allowing the foundation to remain. For one, it likely could not be reused. We are on a different set of building codes than we were when the structure was built, so it likely wouldn't be feasible to reuse it. But more importantly, it's problematic. It could lead to property standards issues.
A whole host of them.
It would be cleaner to require it to be removed.
Here's the thing: if we grant the east yard setback variation,
Yeah.
and we deny the garage-related variations, the owner will have a choice to make, right? Whether to go through with the project and sell half the property because it makes economic sense or not. We're giving the owner that option, and that's something the owner can evaluate and will be something either to capitalize on, or he may decide economically it's not a feasible project. But if we go that route, there's relatively little long-term implication for the two lots. Other than that, we've granted a variation that someone may or may not take advantage of, and denied a request for a variation that in the long term won't have any implication, because someone else would have to come in if they buy the lots and ask for that relief.
So that's back to, can we split this into two motions?
Yes, but they both technically need to be conditioned on removing things, right? You can't get the side yard variance for the house without removing the parking pad and apron on the west lot.
Correct.
And you can't get the variance on the east side without demolishing the garage. Theoretically.
That's up to
Oh,
how
that's
you
up to
guys
us.
want to
Yeah, yeah,
vote.
Okay.
Is the staff okay
Actually-
with thinking about the garage as a legally non-conforming structure after we move the property line, after we create the property line?
No, it would either need zoning relief approved for it to remain as is, or it would need to be moved or demolished.
And by move, do you mean to be in conformance with the setback, which means that this wall have to be pushed back?
Moved to the east property, because it cannot remain on the west property without a principal structure unless that variation is approved.
So going back to, what Mary Beth was saying, I kind of like the idea of conditioning the east lot variation, which I'd be in favor of, on removing the garage, removing the problem that the garage creates, and the foundation, because that really gives the owner, it creates a condition that gives the owner the choice to move forward with that, but it also says if you don't move forward with it, this variation is not going to carry with the property. In other words, if he sells the subdivided lot that we've effectively granted and says to a developer, it's your problem, we're going to get another variation request that we didn't agree with in the first place, only with the argument that it was existing non-conforming and they bought it that way. And so by creating a condition that says you can have the variation we think is fair, so long as you create the problem that it's going to create with respect to the second lot, that's something I would get behind. And then again, it gives the owner the economic choice, which way to go with it, after he does more homework and figures out what it will actually cost to get rid of the foundation and move his garage, as compared to building a new garage entirely. And if the owner decides it's not worth doing that economically, then that's the owner's decision, and he's back where he started.
Okay. So I think we should move forward with two motions. Scott, since you seem to be on top of the thinking, I'm going to ask you to make those motions, please.
Well, the motion on the
They're both
motion
in the
related to the
positive.
garage is a denial.
It's an approval, and then you vote nay if you're against. Remember, we do motions in the affirmative.
Please do, especially since this one may continue to the next hearing for additional voting.
Okay, let's see. All right, I'll attempt this, but I welcome any amendments to my misstatements that are inevitable. All right. With respect to the matter ZBA 17 ZMJV-0071, with respect to the 3.2 west interior side yard setback requested for the east of what would be 2 lots, I move that we approve the variation requested, subject to the condition that the existing garage that sits on what would be the west of 2 lots and foundation be removed at the owner's expense prior to the sale of the west lot, and subject to the condition that the development otherwise occur in conformance with the testimony and documents submitted.
And here's my amendment, that the parking pad and apron be removed prior to the spot survey for the new garage, and that the parkway be restored. Hang on, sorry. All right. Okay.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
Okay, so with a vote of 4-1, the motion to approve, what is he doing?
You mean the case did not involve splitting the
We
property?
don't have to split
We
the
don't have to
property.
split the property. Sorry, just to be clear, we don't, if we keep the lot line as the 2 currently recorded lots
At 50 feet.
at 50 feet, there is no change in the lot line. So we are approving a variance for that east lot with those conditions.
The 3 foot.
That's what's been approved.
3.2
Yes.
west interior side yard.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
And troublemaker.
3.2 west interior.
There is
side
nothing
yard.
in this ZBA, in this case, that talks about moving the lot line.
It asks to split one zoning lot into 2, but my understanding was that that's city council's decision.
The zoning lot can automatically be split if the variations are approved. So if the variations are approved, then the property now meets the zoning ordinance requirements for splitting the lot. Or-
So if the garage is removed, then that variation is no longer required and the lot can be split automatically.
Assuming the setback variations for the house are approved, yes. But so you guys are not approving an actual split.
Right?
No.
Okay. Thank you to the Peanut Gallery.
Yes.
Former Chair Matt Rogers for the TV viewers.
For the win here.
Okay.
Staff, you've got to get on
Okay,
that, right?
so I'll make a second motion which
Okay.
pertains to the 2 other requests before us, which are for a,
Accessory structure.
It's only one. It's the accessory structure.
no, isn't there also a variation for the garage for the?
No, because
There's not a
2.85
setback?
feet rounds up to 3.
Okay, so I make another motion with respect to the request that post splitting of the 2 lots, that the west of the 2 lots be permitted to have an accessory structure, which is the existing garage, where no principal structure would be located on the lot. And I move that we approve that request for a variation, subject to no further conditions.
No. That needs to have, doesn't that need to have conditions about removing the apron and all that stuff? Because you could do one without the other?
No.
No.
He can't do the
They're
other
mutually
now.
exclusive.
We conditioned the first one on removing the
Yes,
garage.
okay, fine, fantastic.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Right.
Aye.
All those opposed? Nay.
Nay.
With a vote of 3-2, that motion does not, nope, that motion goes on to the next meeting, which is in 2 weeks, where the other 2 board members who will listen to this delightfulness and read the testimony and all the record will then vote on that portion of the variance.
2 things. Was that 3 votes in favor?
Against?
That was 3 votes
3
against?
votes against, 2 for.
Okay.
So 2-3.
And then I wrote it the wrong way.
Sorry. I'm probably
Sorry.
the wrong way.
Last point.
I've got a clarification. Now that sorry, Myrna. The first motion you voted for.
Right.
There was a condition on that the garage be removed.
Correct.
And that's where I was leading. Does anyone want to make a motion going back to the first set that was made, but without the condition that the garage must be removed?
Oh, good Lord.
Because here's where we're at.
Yeah.
Right now,
They're contradictory.
Yes.
they are. And so as it is now, if it continues on to the next zoning board hearing, there is an open motion to approve the accessory structure without a principal structure. If that is approved, then the entire project still fails due to the condition listed in the variations regarding the house.
So in other words, the first vote that we passed the conditions can't be met, and therefore the variation is not granted.
No, I think, in my opinion, we have to definitely split the two things. So the first is variation for the lots and the house without condition for the garage. The second is the empty lot with the garage. This is the clean thing.
It is cleaner.
Why do we need to put them in one motion?
Because without that condition, it would change people's votes. So you can have three different sets of motions.
No, that's all just conditional stuff. Like that's not approving or disapproving of anything. That's saying you decide what you want to do, and we'll conditionally approve whatever you decide.
So with the first motion that was made, that was with regards to the setbacks for the house. If there is not a condition about the garage,
I don't vote for it.
and so that's why you should just do a third motion now for that new scenario.
It's been a long day for me. I apologize. Tell me what you want me to do.
What are
I
you
get where
suggesting the
you're
third
going, but
motion
I don't
would
even
cover?
know. I don't even know how to say that because we've made this so complicated in order to try and help the applicant, right? Because believe it or not, we do. We want to help you. We've made this so complicated. But Matt seems like he's got a solution for me.
You need to make a motion to approve the actual request as submitted.
Which is the third. Yeah.
Because currently, there is nothing granting approval of the accessory structure remaining on its own.
Yes.
So you need to make a third motion so that the two members who come later have all three options presented.
Right.
Doing as presented, one as presented, but removing the garage. And the last one, really, just removing the garage is a moot motion, but you've already
Yes.
opened that, taken a vote on it, and it's been announced, and that's a standing vote.
Right.
You cannot withdraw that vote.
Right. Okay.
So is there a motion to approve all variances as requested
Yes.
with any conditions?
Yes.
The conditions are what Mary listed in her statement about the curb cut and about what was the second one, Mary? Help me.
The apron and
And the apron.
restoring the parkway.
And restore the
Restoring the parkway.
All right, that's been moved and
second.
seconded. All those in favor of that say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
With a vote of 2 to 3, that motion does not carry, and we will wait for the next meeting when the other 2 board members will vote on it. All right. Are you confused? Okay, so that's where we are. Thank you very much for your time. And Melissa will follow up with you.
I'll call you guys tomorrow and go over everything that happened.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Who wants to stay? Opposed? Nay. All right. Fabulous. See you guys in 2 weeks. Thank you.